If I had to start a construction business from scratch in 2025 and scale it to multi seven figures into 2026 and beyond, what would I do? Well, in this video, guys, I want to answer that question and hopefully take you through the exact philosophy that I would use to grow a residential construction business, and then just give you guys tactically like the sales process steps as well. If you don't know who I am, my name is Lev Parsegian. I'm the founder of Cosmosify, a consulting agency that helps remodel contractors and custom home builders bring order to their business, so hopefully they can make some more money. And if you don't know, I've worked with 30 plus contractors across the US and even Canada to help them bring order to their business and scale their company. So I think I know a little bit, just a tiny bit, about what works really well to grow businesses like this and what doesn't really work. So let's get straight into it. The first thing that I would do is I would just really focus on definition or defining what the right model is for my construction company. I'm going to use the example of a remodel contractor, an interior remodel contractor, mainly just because of the fact that that's primarily who we work with. And so let's just discuss it. So the first thing to think about is your profit engine, okay? Oftentimes contractors, they get into this business because of the fact that they came from the trades or they had some sort of relevant experience, maybe working for a bigger contractor or, installing flooring, something like that. Doing something trade specific, maybe being a carpenter, maybe running jobs as a PM and so on. The thing is that although that experience is really important, the most important part is understanding the model that you are creating when you're starting a construction company. Okay, so a lot of times these contractors that I've worked with, they will just see that, oh, there's a contractor across the street, or the contractor that I've worked for that's been incredibly successful doing what they're doing. However, they don't see the back end of what it takes to actually get there. And so I say your profit engine because it's important for you to actually define what type of a contractor you want to be and the type of person that you want to serve. Now, I don't think this is going to be the most controversial take in the world, but in the world of construction, I feel like things that aren't supposed to be controversial are just super controversial. But it is the take that I would probably not work with anybody who does not have money. And the reason I wouldn't work with people who don't have money is because if I'm trying to grow my business profitably, I want to work with people who can actually pay me. This is one of the biggest issues in residential construction is that we're so focused on, oh, I want to deliver a product, I want to deliver a finished product that people are happy with and give people a really good customer experience, but they don't realize that part of giving people a great customer experience comes with who you choose to work with on the front end. So like, I'll use this example. I've had contractors who have had nightmare clients, and I've had contractors who have had dream clients. And I ask them what the difference is between the dream clients and the nightmare clients. And they one of the biggest things that they say is that, well, they didn't have the financial ability to really work with me in the first place. They were nickel and diming me from the moment that I walked into their door. And although I secured the bid and I secured the contract, it's like pulling teeth every single time it comes to their draw. And so I know this sounds kind of elementary, but you would be surprised that a lot of contractors will compromise on financials just because of the fact that they're worried that they won't be able to float their business from a cash flow perspective. And so that's why the first thing that I would do is I would define the type of work, the type of client that I would want to work with. And then the next thing would transition to the type of projects that I would want to do. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, okay, Lev, are you telling me to niche down like a ridiculous amount and only do one type of project for one type of person? And honestly, I'd probably say no to that. And the reason why is because if you're just starting out, if I'm just starting out, right, I would want to get projects through the door, and I would want to have some sort of competitive advantage with the types of projects that I'm marketing myself with. And so if I don't know how to necessarily build those projects myself, my competitive advantage could be in the subcontractor relationships that I have with regard to the type of project that I'm going to be promoting, right? Like if I have a strong network of subcontractors who, crush it when it comes to interior work, and I can line them up relatively soon, and the work product is good. I would probably focus on three types of jobs. Okay. Now, if you're asking yourself what kinds of jobs I would focus on, this is where I wouldn't say that the job matters less, but it's more so about the goal that you have, right? Like, you need to realize that there are pros and cons with every single type of job that you take on. So, like a bathroom job is a really good example, because a bathroom job, they're relatively low on the ladder of like decision making. It doesn't take a whole lot of decisions to pull the trigger on remodeling a bathroom. However, I would say kitchens are a little bit higher on the ladder. Then if you were to do a complete gut, like a full gut remodel, that would be even higher on the ladder. If you're tearing the house down, or forget even tearing the house down, if you're doing ground up construction, or you're doing an addition or an ADU, the decision capacity, or the decision making power that it takes to make those decisions, it's going to be a little bit higher on the ladder for that homeowner. And so what that means is that the sales cycle, the timeline that it would take for you to sell a job like that, it would also probably be a little bit longer. Now, if I'm trying to build this business in a relatively short period of time to multi seven figures, I would more than likely focus on a split between I would really just say three types of projects. They would all have to be interior projects. Like I wouldn't want to do exterior work, mainly just because of the fact that it's outside of like the main scope of what it is I'm trying to do, or market myself as, because you want your messaging to be consistent across the board for other people who find you. But I would find like a lower a quicker result offer. So it could be like a smaller type of job just so that you could front cash flow. It would be like a middle tier job. Could be like a kitchen and bath package type of situation. And then there would be like the higher end, and the higher end is more custom. Now, the thing is that regardless of what your services, guys, and that's why I don't want to get too deep into the services, and don't take me too don't live by every single word I'm saying when it comes to the service themselves, but more so focus on the who, okay? Because if you can focus on who you're selling the service to, and in the areas that you're selling the service to, and you can convey an exceptionally high-end offer with a high-end price tag associated with those services, you can also be super profitable from the first day that you sell your first job. Okay? And that's the point here, guys. It's like I'm making this video to show you that if you were to build a business from scratch, from the very beginning, and if I were to, plug in the same frameworks that we plug in for a lot of our contractors, I'd focus on simplifying as much as you possibly can. Okay? And then I would focus on injecting as much cash as I possibly can into the business in the shortest period of time possible. Okay? And we want to do this, of course, ethically. We want to do this legally, and following all of your local jurisdiction or contracting associations, licensing boards rules. But this is kind of the approach that I take, is like focus on the things that are going to give you the highest return for for a lesser amount of time spent. Okay, I know a lot of GCs, they will focus so hard, and after many, many years into their business, they offer like a menu of 15 to 20 different types of projects. And the issue that I have with that is that from a referral standpoint, it's great because you get, a lot of phone calls. But these contractors who are doing $3, $4, $5 million a year sometimes, they do not know their numbers well enough to be able to look at all the projects that they're offering to people and say, wait a second, we're not even making that much money on this. And this one's outright losing us money. So it's like, why are we even offering these types of services? Narrow it down to 3 core services. And if you focus on these 3 core services, you can focus on making sure that you are actually profitable on all of the services. Okay? So that's the first thing, is choose the right model. I know it's a little bit of a longer thought, but I really want to make sure that I got that thought across. Okay? The second thing that I would focus on is building an offer that prints trust. Okay, so when you're selling to cold audiences or people who have no idea who the heck you are, it's important to inject trust into them in some sort of way. Now, you may be thinking, well, how the heck am I going to do that? Like, you know, I don't really have a name. I don't have a reputation for myself. Right. Okay. If you don't have a name or a reputation for yourself, it's important that you get one. But a lot of contractors think, okay, well, so what do? Do I sell smaller jobs? Not necessarily, okay? There's a different way of getting trust, guys. And if you're trying to sell high end and at high price tags and things like that, it is important not only to generate trust from homeowners, but it's also important that you generate trust from partners. Here's what I mean. I think that a lot of times when I talk about affiliate relationships on this channel, like designers, architects, realtors, loan officers, and so on, we look at it from the perspective of, I'm going to hit them up so that they can give me work. But one of the things that I don't think is talked about a lot or talked about enough is, how can I add value to these designers, architects, realtors, and other partners so that not that they can give me work, but that they can vouch for me. Okay? And that vouching for me part is really important, because what you could do is you could collect a wall of testimonials from different architects, designers, realtors, and so on. And then when you go out to, bid a higher end or more expensive project, you can go in with this book of testimonials from all of these well-recognized designers, architects, realtors, and influencers. I'll say purchase influencers in your area. And a lot of times, like, contractors don't realize this, but these testimonials, in some cases, depending on how you use them, can be more powerful than a homeowner testimonial. A homeowner testimonial is great, but these are testimonials from people who have status, and they also have power to influence the ultimate decision of what their home is going to look like. Okay? And if you have status, or you can associate yourself with the status of other people who are well recognized, you're almost borrowing their goodwill and using that for yourself and for your company. Okay? And so I would focus on locking down as many relationships as I can and getting as many references, written testimonials, video testimonials from realtors, architects, designers, and different people who can ultimately help me anchor myself with the higher end crowd, with the higher end jobs. Okay. The other part of this is, because I said build an offer that prints trust. What you would be doing is just making sure that you can give people something tangible that other people cannot get. And so that leads me to the sales process. A lot of times contractors will market themselves with a free consultation. But it's like, do something different. Okay, so I've talked about it before on this channel, but I really love the idea of high tea design consultations, where you show up with some, I don't know what they're called, macaroons, macarons. I think that's what it is. You show up with some macarons, some nice cookies, some high-end teas that you could pick up from like your local tea shop. And that is what you're leading with. Instead of saying, yeah, let me come out and do a free quote, you can say, look, the part of our process is we just want to get to know you over a cup of tea. And so how about you tell me what type of tea you prefer to drink, or if you're a coffee drinker, we got that too. And I'll bring a couple of sweets so that we can kind of discuss what the best options are going to be for yourself, Sally, and also for Dan. Does that sound good? And then they'll look at you and they'll say, oh, this is this is a little bit different. I'm not used to a contractor coming in and telling me they want to sit down and have a cup of tea with me, right? And I know what you're saying. You may be saying, like, does that slow down your sales process? Yeah, kind of. That's the point, though. The point is we want to slow down the sales process and put as much of the power into your hands, the control into your hands, so that you can differentiate yourself, number one, and when you do make an offer, they do not see you as apples to apples with another contractor. They see you as an experience-led contractor, somebody who leaves them feeling better at the end of your experiences with them, and that when you do anchor a higher price tag, they can say, okay, well, I'm getting all of these experiences, all these associations, and all these feelings. On top of that, the same type of delivery that I would get with all these other guys, but it just feels that much more premier because he is focused or she is focused on the experience, okay? And so having an offer that prints trust, that leads with trust, that applies across the board, both for the designers that you guys are trying to work with, get those testimonials from them so you can leverage them during that high-T design consultation, and then for the homeowner side of things, lead with something that's not a free quote or a free consultation, okay? And then the last thing is sell like a professional, not a contractor. There are so many times I have heard stories from my guys where I ask them what their sales process is like, and they're like, well, we get a phone call from somebody, we take down some information, and the next day we show up in person, we give them an understanding of like what it's going to look like to work with us. And it's like, dude, oh my goodness. You want to produce a multi-seven figure, not just pipeline, but you want to produce multi-seven figures in revenue, meaning you want to close multi-seven figures of sales within your construction business. The way that you're going to do that is not going to be by doing your sales process the same way that every other contractor is doing it. And so here's what I'm going to recommend. You get a phone call, or you get a referral, or you get any sort of lead information from a client, reach out to them and have a very specific way that you triage them. You heard me right. Where else have you heard that term triage? Doctor's offices, right? And so what does a nurse do when she comes in or he comes in to evaluate why you're in there in the doctor's office in the first place? You get onto the little table or whatever, and they start asking you questions. They're triaging you for the doctor, meaning they're collecting the initial information so that the doctor can come in and get some more details, still asking questions, by the way, and then finally prescribe whatever the solution is, okay? So on the first call, which we call our triage call, we're learning a little bit more high level of what it is, what their intention is, what it is that they're looking for, okay? Then the second thing that I want you guys to do is after you have this, 5 to max 12-minute long conversation with these homeowners, you're going to send them through 2 routes. Number one, if they are actually the type of homeowner that you want to work with and you want to potentially sign them, there's 2 routes. If it's a super hot opportunity, yes, go out in person and go see them, okay? Same day, next day, I'm a very big fan of. However, if they do not have availability for an on-site in person within that day or the next day, what I do propose is a value call. And a value call is just basically a video, it's a Zoom meeting between yourself and the homeowner. And the reason why you're doing that is so that you can still get in front of them, still meet face to face, still provide them some sort of value, and tee them up for the actual on-site. This is so key, and this is so important to differentiate yourself throughout your sales process as a contractor, because, and it's a big because, no contractors do this. And if they do, it is probably less than 1% of the remodel contractor population all across the US and Canada. Okay? It is such a small percentage of contractors who lead with getting out to just see them, whether it's virtually or in person. So many focus on in person, and if they say, oh, I only have availability next week, you know what they do? They say, okay, I guess I'll meet you next week. No. No, 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 no. Do not do that. Instead, invite them to your process instead of them pushing you into their process and into their life. Say, look, I know that you're only available next week for an onsite. Either way, what I like to do prior to the onsites is do something called a value meeting. And most of our homeowners get a ton of value from this, or a lot of people that we have worked with have gotten a ton of value from this because of the fact that I can ask more intentional questions and learn more about you and your project before I actually come out in person. Worst comes to worst, you're going to leave this call knowing that it's worth us even coming out to see you. Or best comes to best is, you're going to walk away and say, holy moly, I can't wait to see Lev. And that's the point, guys. It's like you want to provide them enough value with the questions that you ask, right? With the questions that you ask, with the feeling that you give them by showing up in a very short period of time. And you want to do this within, a 24 to 48 hour period after you have that initial triage call. And finally, when you do this, when you do all of these things, and I know I'm talking about them, I wouldn't say at a super high level, but at kind of like a medium surface level, just because I want to get all this information out into the video. But when you guys do these things, when you employ these strategies or tactics, rather, what it allows you to do is to get more focus. And if you really want to build a successful construction business, guys, it is going to be about reducing the amount of things that you are saying yes to and focusing your attention on the things that give you the highest return for every yes that you are taking on. Okay? And so the final thing that I'll say here, guys, is that when you have all of these things in place and when you have all these things in order, these are all the things that I would do personally. And these are all of the things that I employ across the board for all the contractors that I work with, is it can provide you a clearer sense of how you can profitably grow a construction business. And this is personally what I would do if I were to grow a business to multi 7 figures. I would build processes like this, install processes like this in place so that I can get more return on my time. And so I don't want to make this longer than it needs to be because I know it's already a 22 plus minute video. I just want to remind you guys that the guy who scales fast is not always going to be the one who wins. Okay? It's about how intentionally you scale. For the purpose of this video, I wanted to talk about what I would do from the very beginning, because a lot of times in the very beginning, contractors do not have clarity. And so I don't want to encourage you guys to scale super fast. I just want to encourage you guys to scale with intentionality, to scale with real systems. Okay, and when you do this, and you actually backtrack and look at the things that you're putting in place, and evaluate how well these things are working on a scale of 1 to 10, the likelihood that you achieve your goal is going to be significantly higher because you're doing it with that intentionality. I'm done with this video. If you enjoyed it and you got value from it, well then stick around because I'm making videos like this on a daily basis for contractors just like you who are doing between $2 and $5 million a year in top line revenue that want to bring order to their construction business. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Share this with a contractor. Peace.